Welcome back to the 240SX project. Today we'll be doing manual seat belts. So as you walk up into the car here, we're going to take a look and see at all the panels that will have to be removed to get to the belts. First ones that you like to pull off are the ones right here along the door sill that cover up the actual belt mechanism and rails themselves. As you can see, the mechanism goes all the way back towards the seat belt area. And we can see here the plastic is also cracked. And after this route, we'll pull out the back seat. Removing the back seat will give us access to the panels as shown here. That top panel will be the first one to come off in this back area, and then the one directly below it will come off next. You'll also want to take out the speaker panel in the back as well to get access to everything. And as you can see, there is exposed our seatbelt mechanism there on the side of the body there, and then those are the plugs connected to it. 10 mils and 14 mils, we need to remove it. And then also here along the rails, you use 10 millimeter sockets. And some more 10 millimeters over here as well. So then as we pull more panels out, you're going to start exposing all the metal. You can also expose all the wiring harness to the belts. And once you have the harness unplugged and you've removed the belt mechanism, you're going to want to trace the wires all the way back up and through this trunk area where that speaker panel was at. And it's one big harness that comes all the way through to the other mechanism on the other side and goes up into the fuse box. Now as you start removing things out, you're going to see the pile begin to grow. I did not record me removing wires, but basically when you remove the wires, you just want to be careful not to break them, fray any other wiring you're going to be holding in there. Just kind of remove it all in one piece if you can. Try not to do any cutting just yet, unless there's going to be peripherals that you're not going to keep. For me, there was a light bulb in the trunk that I did not keep, so I went and cut that wire off. But this will trace all the way through here, and that is where the other rail was at, and where I also unplugged the mechanism on that side. And now one of the good things I've noticed with going through your whole car like this, especially an older 30-year-old tuner car, is removing all of the loose, endless wires that just go to nowhere. The last thing I want is for a fire to start in this car. And there's also the ECU to the seat belts. And I want to do some weighing. So here's my body weight, 180 pounds. As I take everything out of the electric seat belts, I notice they weigh about 17 pounds on their own. So this is a good weight reduction. And that the manual seat belts themselves only weigh 5 pounds. So I do love this mod. Now as you put the seat belt in, you're going to have to use a bracket to mount it to the top there. And these will be the wires that will be left over as you slowly start to cut away everything on the driver's side once you removed all the auto seatbelt mechanisms. And I do like to cut them at different lengths because as I tape them up, I don't want a large bulge hanging out here on this side. And once I've removed all the wires I'm not going to be using, I want to start putting everything back together. I start with the panels here first, and I make sure everything lines up. These are all just going to click into place. There are no bolts for these. And you'll notice that too as you're removing them initially. And I'll continue on the passenger side, and I'll start putting that same panel back in. Again, everything's just clipping into place. Don't force it. If it's not going in, go ahead and look in there and make sure that those clips are going right into those holes. They're plastic. You don't want to break them. Now when it comes back to putting some of the wiring back in, the wires that I did keep were the ones that went to the rear window defroster. I went ahead and wrapped those back up. I made sure a lot of the ground wires were still secure. And I took some hose, cut the hose, slid it down the middle, and I put the wire inside. And then I zip tied it down to the body here. That helps keep it secure from it rattling around, moving, and eventually rubbing through and creating holes in the wiring. Again, my biggest fear is just fires. I hate electrical for this reason, fires. Now this is on the driver's side. We have the belt mounted. Again, I have that bracket that I mentioned, and then I reused some of the old hardware there on the bottom. These seat belts came out of a 1995 Nissan 240SX S14. You also want to make sure that as you test these belts that they swing in the top like that and that they're loose. That way it makes it easy to pull the belt and attach it when you're driving. And then here's the other mounting point. Now when it comes to the back seats, I did end up selling them, which means that I sold these brackets as well. These brackets, along with these bottom cushion releases, you'll get about 50, 60 bucks for them on eBay. Now here's the part of the remaining auto belt system that I did not weigh initially, and I forgot to remove these. So went ahead and bolted these, pulled them out, and you can toss these, sell them on eBay, recycle for trash, whatever. But I removed that, and then I was able to reattach the manual seat belts there at the bottom point. And before you do, you're going to see this mass gaping hole. Just use one of those bolt holes as you mount the manual seat belts. And here's some more mechanisms that went with the auto seat belts. You can pull these out as well. And again, these were not part of the initial weigh-in that I did with the weight reduction. So just pull them out, toss them to the side. This bracket here, I did keep this. I kind of just treated like a weak bracing, if you will. I just figured it was actually going to be good. But here's the seatbelt reattach. You're going to have to cut a small hole in your carpet to reattach that. Once everything's done, it looks great, looks factory. I love it. And I actually end up saving about 25 pounds. So the next one that we'll do, we'll be closing everything back up here, and I have a new panel I'm making.